Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, a podcast for manufacturing professionals. Please remember to like and subscribe to our feed. I'm your host, Steve Plumb, Editor-in-Chief for SME Media, along with my colleagues, Amy Bryson, Cary Gitter, and Cameron Kerkau. Thanks for joining us, everybody. By the way, I have a quick quiz to start it off.
Uh-oh. Steve, come on with the quiz.
What do CNC social media influencer, the leader of an additive educational foundation in Nigeria, a project manager at GM's Autonomous Robotics Center, the founder of an AI-powered facilities platform startup, and a high-altitude stratospheric ballooning expert who spent 70 days in Antarctica have in common? Anybody?
They're part of a new Netflix series that I'll probably watch.
Maybe. Cary?
I would guess that they're all 30 under 30 honorees.
Oh, drat.
You would be correct. So we're here to celebrate one of my favorite times of the year and one of my favorite issues. Not only is October Manufacturing Month, but it also coincides with our annual 30 under 30 issue. So we'll get into some of the details, but the accomplishments of the honorees are just truly amazing. Amy, you've worked on several of these over the past couple of years, and part of the team that evaluates all the nominations. I know it can be a little overwhelming when we go through this, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and Steve, to be fair, I did know the answer, but I really didn't want to ruin it for you. This SME's 30 under 30 program, this is my third year participating in it from the editorial staff, and it's one of my favorite things too, Steve. It's just the coolest thing to read the nominations for all these amazing young professionals and students and community leaders and influencers and innovators in manufacturing. And, it's an annual program, and SME's done it, off and on, but really since 2013. And, we take a look at, dozens and dozens of submissions for people across manufacturing. And we really take a look at, their technical achievements or published works, impact on the community through anything from volunteerism or industry associations, and really their demonstrated examples, which are it's the real fun stuff of innovation and problem solving, as well as teamwork and leadership qualities. And, this class is the class of 2025 is very, very impressive. And they share commonalities in terms of, leadership qualities, teamwork, as I mentioned, as well as just really diverse talents and diverse hobbies. I think one of the misnomers about people in manufacturing is that they're all, business, but these individuals are just well-rounded, super fun, and just so inspiring. I think everyone on this call is a little aged out of being in consideration for any kind of 30 under 30 honoree title, but these folks just make you want to do additional great things with your career. So it's been fun to work on this one for sure.
One of our team members is fairly close. I'm not saying who, but like you said, is just diverse backgrounds, from all over the world, literally, and across all verticals and different specialities, and like you said, the teamwork, collaboration. And another thing that they have in common is they're all very curious, and they didn't just stop at one thing. They may have been interested, something may have drew them in initially, and then they pivoted and went on to something even greater that they hadn't even thought about. Hey, Cary, you're new to this process. What was some of your initial thoughts, being immersed in this world of Uber achievers?
Yeah, it was a really exciting project to be part of. I was so impressed and inspired. I got to interview 10 honorees and get their stories, and I was just amazed at how accomplished they were, how ambitious they were, and how much they'd already done in their respective fields. One of the honorees that I profiled that stood out to me was a fellow named Eric Schnell, who founded a company called Crater, Craitor. He was an engineering student at UC San Diego, and he was studying robotics and additive manufacturing, and he happened to meet some Marines who've been struggling with figuring out how to use 3D printing in the field, and he saw that 3D printing could have this great impact in the military, but 3D printers weren't really ready to operate in those kind of expeditionary settings. So he, at a very young age, founded this company, designed a printer that's called the Field Fab that enables these mission critical parts to be produced in extreme environments. And he's been all over the world, embedded with units from the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. When I interviewed him, he was actually in Southeast Asia on one of these missions. So yeah, I mean, he saw a problem and found a solution to it, and that was kind of the advice that he offered to future leaders. Find something that needs a solution and build a team around that vision and execute it. And he's managed to do that in an amazing way that's taken him all over the globe.
Yeah, so like you said, Cary, you interviewed 10, I think, which, so one of the nice things is with 30, and it was tough getting down to that number, but we were able to divvy them up the list, and each one of us were able to talk to several of these people. Cam, what stood out from your side?
Well, first of all, I gotta say this is 30 Under 30 it's one of my favorite projects that we put out. There's really nothing quite like talking to these people who are, still so early in their career, but they've got so much energy and excitement, and they're doing some of the coolest things I've ever heard of. I got to speak with a guy named Daniel Ayub. He is a senior engineer at Johns Hopkins, the Applied Physics Laboratory there. He was actually on a team that spent 70 days in Antarctica preparing for the launch of NASA's Gusto mission. That mission actually broke the record for the longest flight time by a heavy lift, long duration scientific balloon. And now he's working on the Dragonfly mission to put a robot on one of Saturn's moons. So just the coolest stuff you've ever heard of.
Yeah, from Antarctica to Saturn, that's quite a leap. What about you, Amy? What some of the highlights for you, man?
Yeah, I mean, there are two folks that stand out to me, and I think these two demonstrate just the well-rounded nature of all of these fantastic honorees. The first one that comes to mind is Carolina Fry, and Carolina is a research and development metallurgist at ATI Specialty Alloys and Components. I actually just watched a really cool YouTube video that she posted, and actually ATI posted, where she talks about how cool it is to be a 30 Under 30 honoree because it lets her talk more about what she loves to do, which is her work. And so she says she puts a lot of time and effort into her work, and this gives her kind of a chance to talk to more people about it, which I thought was really cool. One of the projects that she's working on is literally shaping the future of manufacturing by revisiting, of all things, the historical alloys from 1950s and 1960s. She and her team at ATI are basically breathing new life into 70-plus-year-old refractory metal research by using modern tools and modern processes and, current understanding that is really critical for all these, critical missions. I mean, think about things like aerospace, where materials are stressed and it requires materials that, like refractory materials, where they're very resistant from high temperature applications. So and as well as that amazing work that she's doing, she was sharing with me she loves to hike, she loves to read, she's learning how to dance, and she's learning embroidery. And I'm thinking, God, I feel so lazy next to her. She's just doing all these amazing things, and she's still so young in her and all the wonderful things that she's going to do. And then another of the honorees is Pedro Cupertino, and he's a research associate engineer and CAD instructor at the National Institute for Aviation Research. And Pedro spent a lot of time talking about the importance of mentorship and both having one and being one. So being able to look at people who can help you see your own path and carve your own path. And he also talked about the importance of earning certifications and seeking education maybe outside of the traditional means, And in his role, for example, Pedro focuses on a lot of things that we talk about in, the pages of MET and SSE and on advancedmanufacturing.org, digital transformation, integrating design, analysis, and production into really what are hopefully seamless and intelligent workflows. And that's really to help, pave the way for advanced manufacturing, but also helping to attract the next generation of manufacturing talent, which is really the sweet spot for 30 under 30. And Pedro was talking about how, what needs to change or evolve in the industry is that we have to prioritize upskilling and creating more modern training pathways to help bridge this gap between what students are learning and what the industry really needs. And, I think Cary called out some advice that one of his honorees shared, and Pedro's advice was pretty simple. And he said, you don't have to wait to be the most experienced person in the room before you lead. Start contributing, be curious. I think, Steve, you mentioned that as well, and share what you know. And I think that was a theme that a lot of our honorees vocalized, and it shows really why they're standouts in their fields, their areas of study, and really just in, their daily lives.
Yeah, I think we had a great mix of, not only vocations of what people are in the projects they're working on, but also, technicians, scientists, people that are working on in plants, as well as educators and researchers at some top schools. And when we had representatives from a lot of the top companies, but also startups like Cary had mentioned, and one of you mentioned ATI. One of the honorees that I spoke to was Autumn Miller, who was a process controls and automation engineer at ATI's rolled products facility in Pennsylvania. And she started there as an intern during college, then took a full-time position after graduation. And she actually earned 3 degrees, and was when she joined ATI full-time, she was immediately put in charge of a team to troubleshoot and upgrade some areas in the plant's melt shop that involved, I think, 100 different grades of steel. And the project yielded a $2.5 million plus savings while improving quality. And she's already involved in another project that also has the potential to save more than $1 million. And just as important, she loves her job and is passionate about mentoring and her coworkers as well as students, the next generation. Cary and Cam, any other good examples that come out?
Yeah, one person who really stood out to me is Macy Sawyer. She's a project management lead at the Autonomous Robotics Center at General Motors right here in Detroit. And Macy's story interested me because she actually studied chemical engineering at Ohio State and planned to go into food manufacturing, and then ended up making this big leap outside her comfort zone to get into automotive, and ended up really thriving there. So she helped make GM's Factory Zero plant fully operational. That was her first project once she joined the company. And then later she was part of a small team that took a robot from design to prototype in 6 months. And that led to the creation of the Autonomous Robotics Center, which is an internal robotics startup within GM that now has more than 150 employees. So she's really done quite a bit there, and it wasn't even the sector that she initially planned to get into. Also, as a dog owner, I have to say that Macy's a dedicated volunteer at a dog rescue called Bark Nation that's focused on ending dog fighting and animal cruelty. And she actually brought her whole GM innovation team to Bark Nation for a volunteer day. So she's a leader both within the company and outside in terms of her advocacy and volunteer efforts.
That is very cool, and I know the animal aspect was across multiple people that the honorees, dogs, cats, and others. Yeah, everyone has their own unique journeys, is what you really find when you're going through this and talking to the people. Another one of my honorees was Yash Mittal, and as a boy growing up in India, he said he was always fascinated by technology and science and math, and that continued, throughout high school and college. He was a project intern for a biomedical research lab and became exposed to 3D printing. And so again, his interest took a little bit of a turn, and went into a different field, and he went on to develop a new design for a polymer-based 3D printers as part of his PhD project. And he also has his own equation named after him. And now, not too many people can say that. And now he's working as a postdoctoral researcher at Purdue. We only touched upon a few of them, but there are 30 equally impressive stories throughout the publication. Thanks for everyone, Cam, Cary, and Amy. And the 30 under 30 class for 2025 really represents the brightest minds in the industry. And to learn more about the people we mentioned today and all the other honorees, please visit advancedmanufacturing.org.